Supply chain teams are increasingly being asked to do two things at the same time. On one hand, they must keep costs low, stock levels lean, and operations efficient. On the other, they must respond quickly to disruption, demand surges, innovation, and changing operational requirements. That is where the idea of bimodal supply chains becomes useful. The concept is about recognizing that one operating model rarely fits every demand profile, every disruption pattern, or every mission need. Some parts of the supply chain need stability, standardization, and efficiency. Other parts need speed, flexibility, and innovation. The challenge is finding the right balance without creating unnecessary complexity. Low cost, lean stock, fast response. All at once, bimodal thinking emerged because supply chain professionals are now expected to deliver what can sometimes feel impossible. We are asked to reduce cost, reduce stock, and improve efficiency, while also being ready for disruption, uncertainty, and rapid change. Traditional supply chain models often assume that demand is reasonably predictable and that the main objective is optimization. But modern supply chains operate in a much more volatile environment. Disruption can come from supplier failure, geopolitical risk, transport constraints, cyber issues, climate events, or sudden changes in customer demand. So the question becomes, should every part of the supply chain be managed in the same way? Bimodal thinking says no. Different supply chain problems require different operating behaviours. Optimizing predictable, repeatable supply flows. Mode 1 is focused on stability and efficiency. This is the part of the supply chain where demand is relatively predictable, processes are mature, and repeatability matters. The aim is to optimize core operations, reduce waste, control cost, and create reliable flow. Mode 1 works well for established supply pipelines, routine replenishment, standard items, and predictable demand patterns. In this environment, standardization is valuable. Processes should be clear, data should be consistent, and performance should be measured carefully. Mode 1 is not slow or old-fashioned. It is disciplined. It gives the organization the reliable foundation it needs to operate efficiently. Designed for uncertainty, speed, and adaptation, Mode 2 is different. It is about agility, innovation, and adaptation. This is the part of the supply chain designed for uncertainty, disruption, and changing requirements. Mode 2 is useful when demand is unclear, the operating environment is unstable, or the organization needs to experiment with new solutions. It supports fast decisions, flexible sourcing, rapid problem solving, and learning by doing. This could apply during a humanitarian crisis, a contested logistics environment, a new technology rollout, or a sudden change in operational demand. Mode 2 should not be chaotic. It still needs governance and control, but it allows the supply chain to move faster when traditional processes are too slow or too rigid. Different operating needs call for different supply chain behaviour. The important point is that Mode 1 and Mode 2 are not in competition. They are designed for different situations. Mode 1 is better suited to stable, recurring demand. For example, routine MRO spares, food supplies, predictable consumables, or established replenishment pipelines. Mode 2 is better suited to uncertainty and rapid change. For example, humanitarian response, contested logistics, urgent operational requirements, new technology introduction, or disruption recovery. The mistake would be to use one model for everything. If we use Mode 1 for uncertain environments, the supply chain may become too slow. If we use Mode 2 for routine supply, we may introduce unnecessary cost and complexity. The skill is knowing where each mode fits. Why the concept is attractive. The upside of bimodal supply chains is that they reflect reality. One size does not fit all. Different products, suppliers, customers, and operating environments require different supply chain responses. Bimodal thinking allows organizations to protect the efficiency of their core operations while still creating room for innovation and agility. It can help balance discipline with responsiveness. It can also improve resilience because the organisation is not locked into a single way of working. For defence, critical infrastructure and commercial organisations, this matters. Stable operations still need to be efficient, but volatile situations need the ability to adapt quickly. Bimodal supply chains give leaders a way to think about both at the same time. Bimodal supply chains can add complexity. The risk is that bimodal supply chains can easily become overcomplicated. Running two modes side by side is not trivial. If managed poorly, it can create silos between teams, duplicated effort, unclear ownership, and competing priorities. Mode 1 teams may see Mode 2 as uncontrolled or disruptive. Mode 2 teams may see Mode 1 as too slow or too bureaucratic. That is why culture, governance, and technology are so important. There needs to be a clear understanding of when to use each mode, who owns the decision, how information flows, and how performance is measured. Bimodal supply chains are not simply about creating two separate systems. They are about creating one coherent supply chain that can behave differently when the situation demands it. In a volatile world, bimodal thinking may be essential. The key message is this: in a volatile world, bimodal thinking may not be optional. Stability and agility both matter. Efficiency and innovation both matter. The real question is not whether one is better than the other. The real question is whether the supply chain can apply the right behaviour to the right problem. A single operating model is often not enough for defence, critical infrastructure, or complex commercial supply chains. But bimodal supply chain management must be handled carefully. Done well, it helps balance efficiency, resilience, and responsiveness. Done badly, it risks adding complexity to an already complex profession. So the challenge is simple: use bimodal thinking to create flexibility without losing control. Is it innovation or overcomplication? The answer depends on how well it is governed.